town of Red Hollow looked peaceful in the daytime. Children played on the streets. The ice cream shop had long lines. The sun made everything golden and warm. But when night came, something changed. The air felt colder, even in the middle of summer. The streetlights flickered. The dogs barked at empty spaces. And the people, well, some of them didn't sleep anymore in the summer of 2043. 5 teenagers decided to stay out late. They were bored. No school, no parents watching, just warm nights and endless freedom. They had no idea that the night would change everything. Mason, the leader of the group, was 17. Brave, cocky, always first to take a dare. Lena, his younger sister, was smart and quiet. Then there was Dev, a gamer who believed in aliens more than ghosts. Emily, who liked scary stories but never thought they were real. And last was Tyler, a prankster who laughed too loud even when he was scared. The group had heard the rumors. Everyone in Red Hollow had. They said people vanished during summer nights. Some said it was a wild animal. Others said a ghost. But older people, those who had lived in Red Hollow their whole lives, they never talked about it. When asked, they would go silent, eyes wide, as if remembering something they tried to forget. Mason, of course, laughed at the idea. It's just bedtime stories, meant to scare kids, he said. Let's go to the old highway. The one with no lights. I bet nothing will happen. That night, just before midnight, the 5 teens rode their bikes down the long, dark road outside town. The moon was high. The air was thick with heat. Crickets chirped. Owls hooted. But there was something else, something silent, like a breath being held. They stopped near an old, abandoned gas station. It had been closed for 20 years. Windows cracked. Rust on the pumps. A single flickering light buzzed above the door. No one knew why the power still worked. The town never fixed it. No one dared go near it. As they stood there, Tyler pointed to a sign half buried in weeds. It read, "Do not enter after dark. You've been warned." Mason laughed. Perfect. Let's go in. Inside, the air smelled like mold and fuel. Shelves were empty. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling. And yet the security camera in the corner was blinking. Red light on. As if it were recording them. Emily shivered. Why would a camera still work here? Dev pulled out his phone. Let's live stream it. Maybe we'll catch a ghost. They explored the building, laughing, joking, pretending not to be scared. But Lena stopped suddenly. Her flashlight flickered. Then the air got even colder. Mason, look. At the back of the station, the wall had a message written in dark red letters. They watch at night. If you see them, run. If you hear them, hide. If they touch you, it's already too late. Tyler laughed. Nice prank, Mason. Did you paint that earlier? Mason raised his hands. I swear I didn't. Lena stepped back. Her voice was low. That's not paint. It's dry and sticky. Suddenly, a loud knock came from the storage room behind them. Knock, 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 3 times. Slow, heavy, like someone or something with claws. No one spoke. Dev whispered, "Animals." Lena shook her head. Too slow, too smart. Mason stepped toward the door. We can't just run from sounds. It's probably a raccoon. He opened the door. There was nothing there, just shelves, dust, and darkness. But then Tyler turned pale. Guys, my phone's not working. It just froze. Look at the time. It says it's 3:33 a.m. Emily checked hers. Same thing. All their phones were frozen at 3:33 a.m. Mason looked at Lena. Let's get out of here. They ran outside. But when they reached their bikes, they were gone. No way, Mason shouted. We left them right here. Dev turned around in circles. They can't vanish. Who would steal 5 bikes in the middle of nowhere? That's when they heard it. A low, humming like a machine starting up. Or maybe breathing deep, slow, hungry. Then from the trees, shadows began to move. Not normal shadows. They weren't cast by light. They moved against it. They had long arms, thin legs, and no faces. just empty holes where eyes should be. Tyler screamed. First, then Dev. Lena grabbed Mason's arm. Run. They ran back toward town, through the trees, past the broken signs, not looking back. Behind them, the shadows followed, silent, fast. Getting closer, they reached the first streetlight on the edge of town. As soon as they stepped into the light, shadows stopped. Just like that, they vanished. Mason fell to his knees, breathing hard. What were those things? Lena whispered. I don't know. But the stories were real. Emily checked her phone. It worked again. The time said 12:04 a.m. It was only midnight, she asked. Is that possible?
Oh, we lost over 3
hours. Dev said nothing. He was shaking. They walked home in silence. None of them spoke about what they saw. Not that night, not for many nights, but that summer, other people started vanishing, just like the rumors. A jogger disappeared during a night run. A couple camping by the lake was never found. Even the town's sheriff locked his doors at sunset and never came out until dawn. One by one, Red Hollow's secrets were waking up, and the teens. They thought they had escaped, but they were wrong, because the next night, one of them didn't wake up. The summer night was quiet, too quiet. After what happened to Sam the night before, everyone in the town of Grayshore was on edge. His sister, Mia, hadn't stopped crying since he vanished. People whispered behind closed doors. Some believed Sam had simply run away, but others knew better. There was something strange in the air, something watching from the dark. One of Sam's closest friends, Jacob, couldn't sleep. The silence outside his window felt like it was pressing down on him. He kept hearing soft tapping sounds, like fingers gently hitting the glass. But when he looked, nothing was there. The dog, a golden retriever named Max, kept growling at the back door. Jacob finally decided he couldn't stay in the house any longer. I'm going to find Sam, he whispered to himself. He grabbed his flashlight, his backpack, and a kitchen knife. He didn't tell anyone, not even his parents. He knew they would stop him. But Jacob had a feeling that Sam hadn't gone far, and he had an even stronger feeling about where to start looking. The cornfield? It stretched out for miles behind. Their school. It was thick, tall, and wild, especially in the summer.
Ow.
Local kids often dared each other to go in at night, but none stayed long. Weird things happened inside. People talked about seeing shadows moving between the stalks. Even heard whispers that didn't belong to any voice they knew. Jacob reached the edge of the cornfield just after midnight. The wind had died down. The corn stood tall and still, like an army of watchers. He turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The path was tight. The leaves scratched his arms as he walked. Every now and then, he would spin around, thinking he heard footsteps behind him. But the beam of his light only showed more corn. The deeper he walked, the stranger things felt. The air grew thick. He could barely breathe. Then he saw Sam's backpack. It was torn open, lying at the base of a crooked scarecrow. Scarecrow was wrong. Its head was too small. Its arms were long and thin, like metal wires. It had no face. It's just a blank. White mask, Jacob stepped back. He aimed the light at the ground, finding more things. Sam's shoe, a notebook, a snapped pencil. Sam. Code out. The corn behind him RS led. He turned quickly. Who's there? No answer. Jacob moved faster now, deeper into the field. He was beginning to regret this, but he couldn't turn back. Not now. He followed a strange trail of broken stalks until he reached a small clearing. There in the middle of the circle was a large hole in the ground, like a tunnel going deep into the earth. Around it were claw marks in the dirt. Something had crawled out, or maybe it had dragged something in. Suddenly Max barked from the edge of the field. Spun around, heart pounding. Max? He ran toward the sound, pushing through the corn like it was fighting him. When he reached the edge of the field, Max was there, but he wasn't barking anymore. He was growling, low and deep. Standing just a few feet from them was a figure. It was tall, thin, and wearing a mask. But this one wasn't like a scarecrow. It was moving. Jacob froze. The thing tilted its head, studying him. Then it pointed. Not at Jacob, but at the cornfield behind him. He turned slowly. Something else was coming. A second figure stepped out from the corn. Then another, and another. All of them wore masks. All of them had long, wire-like arms. They didn't speak. They didn't move like people. They just watched. Jacob grabbed Max and ran. He didn't stop until he reached the road. He didn't look back. He burst into his house, slammed the door shut, and locked every window. Max wouldn't stop barking. His parents came running down the stairs, confused and half asleep. "There's something in the cornfield," Jacob shouted. "They're not human." His parents didn't believe him, not completely, but they could see the fear on his face. That night, none of them slept. The next morning, Jacob's story spread. Some laughed, some were scared, and one man, Mr. Grady, the oldest farmer in town, simply nodded. "I told them years ago," Mr. Grady said. "Told them the ground out there was cursed." 8. Things buried deep don't stay buried. But no one really listened. It's not until the second disappearance. It happened just 2 nights later. A boy named Tyler went missing. He had been walking home from a party. The last message he sent his friend was short but chilling. "There's someone in the corn." After that, nothing. Now people were scared. Really scared. The police searched the cornfield, but they found nothing. No sign of Tyler. No footprints. No broken stalks. Just the wind. But Jacob knew better. He knew what he saw. And deep inside, he fed. The next day, the summer heat was still heavy. The sky looked normal, but something in the air felt raw. Trees stood still. No wind moved the leaves. Even the birds were quiet. It was like nature itself was holding its breath. Alex sat on the porch, staring at the ground. His hands were shaking. What he had seen the night before, those glowing eyes, that cold breath behind his neck, it wasn't a dream. He knew that now. And worse, he knew something had followed him home. His parents had left for a trip 2 days ago. The old farmhouse was now quiet, too quiet. And every night since that first strange whisper in the woods, something had changed. Inside the house, that night around 2 a.m., Alex heard it again. It started softly, scrape, scrape. A sound like wood dragging on stone. Alex sat up in bed, holding his breath. The sound was coming from below. From the basement, no one had gone down there in years. The basement door was always locked. Old rusty chains held it shut. His father said there was nothing down there but broken tools and rats. But tonight, the chain was swinging. Clink, link. Alex got out of bed slowly. Every step felt heavy. His feet were cold, even though the summer night was warm. He picked up the flashlight from his drawer. The batteries were fresh. Turned it on and walked slowly to the hall. The basement door stood at the far end, and it was open. Just a crack, enough to show darkness behind it. Not just normal darkness. This was deeper, thicker, like smoke. It almost seemed alive. Alex wanted to run. Every part of his body screamed at him to run. But something else, something strange, pulled him forward. He reached the door. He pushed it. The old wood creaked. The smell hit him first. Damp, rotten earth. Like something had been buried down there. The flashlight shook in his hand. He stepped down the first stair, then the second. The sound returned. Scrape, scrape. Then a whisper, not words, just a breath, soft, cold. He felt it brush against his ear. He spun around. Nothing, just the stairs behind him. Empty, he kept moving down. At the bottom, flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then it died. Alex was in complete darkness. He stood still. Then he heard footsteps, not behind him, in front of him, slow, heavy. Something was moving toward him. In the dark, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, turned on the screen for light. The soft glow lit only a few feet ahead, enough to show scratch marks all over the stone wall. Deep, angry lines, like something had been trapped and tried to claw its way out. Then his light caught something else. Ah. Face. No, not a face. Something wearing a face. It was pale, like stretched paper. hollow eyes. Its mouth hung open in a scream, but no sound came. Its arms were long, too long. Fingers touched the floor. It took a step forward. Alex dropped his phone. Screen cracked, and the light went out. He ran up the stairs, heart pounding, screaming, but his voice felt like it was being swallowed by the dark. He reached the top and slammed the door. But the door wouldn't stay closed. Something was pushing from the other side. He grabbed the chain, wrapped it, and locked it. Then everything went silent. Just his breath, and then a whisper right at the edge of his ear. "You opened it." Alex backed away slowly. He didn't sleep that night. Sat in his room, lights on, shaking. Morning came. The sun was shining again. The world looked normal, but Alex wasn't the same. He walked around the house. Every shadow looked longer. Every creak of the wood sounded louder. The basement door remained shut, but now the chain had marks, like claws had scratched at it. All night that afternoon, his friend Mia came over. Alex didn't want to tell her, but he had to. He explained everything. Mia didn't laugh. She believed him. She said, "You remember that story from the news last year? About the family who lived here before yours?" Alex blinked. "No, what story?" "They all disappeared," she said. "No signs. Just gone. Except for one thing." "What?" "The basement was open, the chain broken, and they found claw marks. Exactly like what you just said." Alex's stomach twisted. "There's more," she added. "Some say a scientist lived here long ago, before it was a farmhouse. He worked on dark experiments. Government shut it down, but they never found him. Rumor is he was trying to summon something." Alex's hands started to shake again. "What do we do?" he whispered. Mia looked at him. "We don't go back in there." But it was already too late. That night, the scratching came back. This time, from behind his bedroom wall. The sound of crickets was gone, not quiet. Gone, gone. Emma stood frozen near the edge of the lake, her flashlight flickering in her shaking hand. The silence felt too heavy, like the night itself was holding its breath. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her feet refused to move. She wasn't alone. Behind her, a branch snapped. She spun, the flashlight beam darting into the trees. Nothing, just shadows. And that horrible silence. Even the wind had stopped. The air felt thick, like syrup, sticking to her skin and throat. "Jake?" she whispered, hoping her voice would bring back something normal. No answer. "Jake? Is that you?" Still nothing. The last time she saw Jake, he'd gone to check out a strange noise near the old abandoned cabin they passed earlier. That was 20 minutes ago. Said he'd be back in 5. Now her phone was dead. Her flashlight was dying. And every second the night felt wrong. Suddenly, something moved fast, just outside the edge of her light. Emma gasped and backed up until her heel hit something soft. She turned and screamed. It was Jake, but he wasn't standing. He was crawling, slowly, painfully. His clothes torn, face scratched, and eyes wide with pure terror. "Run," he choked. Emma dropped to her knees. "What happened?" "Jake, who run?" He screamed again, louder this time, gripping her arm with bloody fingers. Before she could react, a low growl echoed through the trees. Not a wolf. Not a bear. This was something else. The sound was deep, decay and natural, like metal grinding underwater. Jake tried to speak again, but his voice cracked. "It's watching." Then, without warning, his body jerked violently. Emma gasped in horror as something yanked him backward, not by his legs, but by the darkness itself. There was nothing there. No hand, no rope. Just a pull. Jake's scream was cut short as he vanished. Into the woods. The leaves barely moving in his wake. Emma ran. She didn't look back. She didn't even think. She just ran, through trees, across rocks. Her flashlight slipped from her hand, bouncing somewhere behind her, but she didn't care. She could still see, not with light, but with fear. Every step was pure survival. But the forest wouldn't let her go. The path twisted. The trees grew. Thicker. The shadows deeper. No matter where she turned, She found herself back near the lake, as if the woods were folding around her. That's when she saw them. Eyes. Dozens of them. Glowing faintly in the dark. Not red, not yellow, blue, soft. Cold and watching. They hovered in the trees, high and low, too many to count. And not a single one blinked. Emma backed up slowly, heart pounding so loud she could hear it echo in her ears. Then one of the eyes blinked, and from the shadows stepped a figure. It looked human, at first, tall, pale, hairless, wearing something. Like a tattered uniform. But its face, oh God, its face was stretched too wide. No nose, just thin slits. And its mouth, when it opened, was full of tiny, perfect teeth. Needles. It didn't growl. It smiled. Emma turned to run again, but she stopped in front of her. Another figure stepped from the trees. Then another, then another. They were all. Around her, she was surrounded. The blue-eyed things began to hum. Low, vibrating tones that made her vision blur. Her knees buckled. Her thoughts grew fuzzy. Then, he stopped. Silence returned, and then, voice. But not from one of the creatures. It came from above, from the sky. I found her. Emma's eyes widened. Above her a drone hovered, one of the large military ones with blinking lights and mounted cameras. The blue-eyed things hissed out, shielding their eyes. Suddenly floodlights lit up the trees. A low whir filled the air as more drones arrived, surrounding the area. Target acquired, the voice said again. Extraction inbound. Then, for the first time, the blue-eyed thing screamed. Not human screams. High-pitched, piercing. Wrong. Nearest creature lunged at Emma, but before it could reach her, a beam of light shot from one of the drones, blasting it backward in a flash of blue fire. The others scattered, screeching and vanishing into the trees like smoke. A helicopter roared above. Wind whipping the trees. Ropes dropped. Men in black suits and helmets descended, surrounding Emma. One of them knelt, Emma Carter. She could barely nod. You're safe now. We've been tracking these things for years. What are they? She managed to whisper. The man didn't answer. He just looked toward the trees and said quietly, They're not from here. As they lifted her into the chopper, Emma looked down at the forest and saw the eyes again, watching, always watching. As the old radio continued to hum in the silent cabin, the night outside grew darker, heavier. Jason sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the window. He no longer felt alone, even though he couldn't see anyone out there. The feeling of being watched had returned, sharper than ever. Earlier, he had found strange scratch marks on the inside of the cabin door, not outside inside. That made his stomach turn. Whatever was out there had already been in here. He hadn't told the others. Chris was finally calming down. Mia was pretending everything was fine, and Tyler had disappeared for too long the previous night to be trusted now. Jason looked again at the old journal. He had found beneath the loose floorboard. The last few pages were torn, but what remained chilled him to the bone. Don't follow. The lights don't listen to the voices. Once you hear your name, it's too late. Suddenly, power went out. Total silence. The cabin drowned in complete darkness, except for the moonlight seeping in through the cracks in the wall. Jason's heart started pounding. He reached for the flashlight, but it was dead. He grabbed it. His phone, it was dead too. That wasn't possible. He had charged it earlier that evening. He walked slowly into the hallway, calling out, Chris, Mia, anyone? No answer. As he passed the living room, he noticed the old radio. It was still on. The power was out, but the radio was humming faintly. Jason stepped closer. A whisper broke through the static. Jason, he froze. The whisper came again, clearer now. Jason, come outside. His legs refused to move, but his mind screamed. He turned to run and bumped straight into Mia. She screamed. So did he. Why are you creeping around in the dark? She asked, holding a candle that barely lit her face. Jason stared at the radio. The whisper had stopped. Mia, did you hear it? She asked. She shook her head. Hear what? It's the radio. It said my name. She looked at him, like he'd lost his mind. Jason, we need to leave, right now. Something's wrong. I just found Chris sitting outside talking to someone who isn't there. Jason followed her to the back porch. Chris sat cross-legged in the dirt, looking up at the trees, murmuring, "No, I can't go with you," Chris whispered. "Not yet. I have to bring the others." Jason knelt beside him. "Chris, hey, who are you talking to?" Chris turned to him slowly. His eyes looked wrong. Cloudy, empty, like he wasn't fully in control anymore. "They're waiting," Chris said. "They want you to." Jason pulled him up and dragged him into the cabin. "We need to leave, Mia." Now, as they stepped inside, the wind howled violently outside. Trees bent. The sound of some things moving through the woods grew louder. Suddenly the door slammed shut on its own. They jumped. Jason turned to Mia. "Where's Tyler?" "I don't know. I haven't seen him since dinner."
Out.
Just then, something pounded on the front door. Hard. Then again. Jason grabbed the rusted fireplace poker. Mia stood behind him, holding the candle. They crept toward the door. Knocking stopped. Jason opened it fast. No one. But there was something on the porch, a handprint. Not human. Long fingers. Too many joints. Black goo dripping from the palm. Jason stepped back. "That's not human." Mia began to cry. "We're not alone here. Whatever it is, it wants us scared." Suddenly, they heard heavy footsteps. Above them, the attic, Jason said. They hadn't even explored it yet. The cabin owner had nailed it shut long ago. But now, something was walking up there. Jason grabbed a chair and pulled it under the attic door. Slowly, he opened the hatch. Cold air rushed down. He climbed the ladder, poker in hand. Mia stayed below, candle flickering. As Jason reached the top, the stench hit him, rotting wood. And something worse. The attic was filled with old furniture, cobwebs, and something large under a tarp. He stepped closer and pulled the tarp off. A shape lay under it. A body, Tyler. His skin was pale. His eyes wide open, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. But something was carved into his chest. "We see through you." Jason screamed, and the attic hatch slammed shut. Mia cried out from below, banging on the hatch. "Jason, open the door." Jason tried, but it wouldn't budge. Then he heard it behind him. Slow footsteps. He turned. Tyler was gone, and something was crawling toward him from the corner of the attic. Its body was long, bent, and wrong. It had too many limbs. Its face shifted constantly, sometimes looking like Tyler, sometimes like Mia, and sometimes like his own face. Jason froze. The thing whispered, "Bring them to us, or stay here forever." Suddenly, the hatch burst open again. Chris had smashed it from below with a crowbar. Jason dropped down, heart racing. "We're leaving," he said. But outside, the sky was no longer black. It was deep red, the forest. It was alive with shapes moving between the trees. "Hundreds of them," Mia pointed. "Jason, the cabin's not letting us go." They turned back to look at the door. It had vanished. The night had gone quiet again. Too quiet, outside the small cabin. Deep in the woods, the crickets had stopped singing. No wind, no rustling trees, just complete silence. A kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt ... watched inside. Jordan sat by the fire, holding a flashlight even though the lights had come back on earlier. His heart still raced after. What happened to Rena, the way her voice changed? It's the thing that wasn't her. He kept the doors locked now. Windows shut. Phone turned off. He didn't trust anything electronic anymore, and yet he wasn't alone. Jordan's breath caught. When he heard something outside, not loud, just a soft, slow knock on the window behind him. He didn't move. Knock, knock, knock. 3 taps. Slow, like someone was waiting between each one. He turned his head slowly. Eyes wide. The window was fogged, but he could just barely make out a shadow. It was tall. Still, unmovient. Jordan stood up, heartbeat pounding like a drum in his ears. He picked up the axe from the fireplace rack, the only weapon he had left. Then came the voice, soft female voice, muffled by glass, but to calm for the moment. "Let me in. Please, I'm cold." He froze. It sounded like a woman, but something was wrong. No panic, no fear, just calm. To calm, and the voice felt like it wasn't just outside, it was inside his head too. Jordan crept toward the window, slowly, very slowly, pulled back the curtain with the end of the axe, and then he saw her. She was pale, too pale. Her skin looked like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. Her black hair was wet, hanging in messy clumps over her shoulders. Her white dress was torn, muddy. But it was her eyes that made Jordan gasp. They were completely black, no whites, no pupils, just black, like two holes in her face that led to nowhere. She smiled at him. Jordan stepped back, stumbling over a chair. The woman didn't move. I didn't speak again. She just stood there, smiling at him through the glass like she knew something he didn't. Then, without warning, she vanished. Not walked away, not ran, just gone. Gone. Ran to the window, looked out into the night. Nothing he didn't. Sleep that night. The next morning, he left the cabin. Couldn't take it anymore. Packed up what little he had, grabbed the old hiking map from the wall, and started walking down the path back toward town. No signal, no car. He had Lexand right now, that was good enough. But the forest didn't look the same anymore. The sun was up, but it was cold. Too cold for summer. And the birds still weren't singing. He walked for an hour, then 2. But something was off. He passed the same fallen tree 3 times. The same scratch on the trunk. The same moss. He was walking in circles. No, he whispered. No, no, no. He pulled out the compass from his bag. The needle spun in circles. Panic rose in his chest. He started running, not walking running. It's just straight through the trees. No path, no direction, just moving. Moving and hoping he'd find something, anything. And then he saw her again. The black-eyed woman. She was standing ahead of him now. Right between the trees, hands folded like she was waiting for him. He stopped dead. "Who are you?" he shouted. She tilted her head. "Let me in," he screamed, and turned around, ran the other way. Branches cut at his arms. Thorns scratched his legs. But he didn't stop. Not until he tripped and fell down a ditch, hitting his head on something hard. Everything went black. When Jordan woke up, he was lying in a hospital bed. Bright lights, clean sheets, the sound of beeping machines. He blinked. A nurse leaned over him. "You're okay now. We found you just outside the forest. You've been unconscious for almost a day." Jordan sat up quickly. The woman black eyes, did anyone see her? The nurse frowned. "What woman?" "I saw her. She was following me. She wasn't human." The nurse placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay. You were scared. People see things when they're alone in the dark for too long. Hallucinations are normal," Jordan didn't believe. Her, that night, as he lay in bed, trying to convince himself it was all over. He looked at the window beside him. There she was again, smiling. Her black eyes met his. And this time, the window was open. Jordan stared at the open window. The black-eyed woman was no longer outside. She had vanished again. But this time, the cold wind blowing into the hospital room told him something worse. She had been inside. He jumped out of bed, hitting the nurse call button again and again. No one came. The halls were quiet, too quiet. The normal hum of machines and distant voices gone. He opened the door and looked out, empty. No nurses, no patients, no sound. Just pale lights flickering in the hallway. He moved carefully, gripping. The IV stand like a weapon. Each step echoed loudly. Checked every room as he passed empty beds. No staff. It was like the hospital had been abandoned. Or worse. Like he was the only one left behind. Then he heard it whispers, coming from the bathroom at the end of the hallway. They weren't loud, just a soft, raspy sound, like someone breathing words that weren't meant to be heard. He stood. Frozen for a moment, the whispers stopped. The door creaked open slowly by itself. Jordan took one step forward, then another. His hand trembled as he pushed the door fully open and stepped inside. The bathroom was dark. The mirror above the sink was fogged up, even though there was no steam. He looked around empty, but as he turned back to leave, he saw something in the mirror, not his reflection. Something behind him, a dark figure, not moving, just watching. He spun around. Nothing was there, but when he turned back again, the figure was still in the mirror. Closer now, he reached out a hand toward the glass. Suddenly, cold, wet hand slammed against the inside of the mirror from the other side. Jordan screamed and stumbled back. The mirror cracked. A voice hissed through the broken glass. "You opened the window, now we come through." He ran down the hall, past the empty rooms. Past the broken silence, he reached the elevator and slammed the button. Nothing. He turned and saw the lights. Behind him, going out one by one, darkness followed him. He didn't wait. He ran to the stairs and took them 2 steps at a time. But even in the stairwell, he could hear the whispers. They were everywhere now. He burst out onto the first floor and crashed through the exit doors. He was outside. Night had fallen again, but it didn't feel like the real world anymore. The sky was wrong. The stars weren't in the right places. The moon had turned red. The parking lot was filled with abandoned cars, all with doors wide open, lights blinking. He ran into the woods behind the hospital, the same woods where it all began. And that's when he saw them, dozens of them, black-eyed people standing between the trees, men, women, children, all pale, all smiling, all whispering his name. Jordan turned to run and slammed into someone. It was Rena, but her eyes, they were black too now. "You shouldn't have left the cabin," she said, smiling. "You're not real." Jordan whispered, backing away. Rena tilted her head. "Real, Jordan? You're the one who never left?" He shook his head. "I escaped. I made it to the hospital." "You're lying." The whispers got louder. He covered his ears. "Stop. Stop it." Rena stepped closer. "We live inside the things you ignore. The dark corners, the open windows, the cracks in the mirror." Jordan screamed and ran again, but the forest never ended, everywhere. He turned. More black-eyed people appeared, whispering, watching, reaching. Then the ground gave way beneath him. He fell. Down, down, down. He woke up on the floor of the hospital bathroom. The mirror was cracked. The sink was still running. The door was closed. Everything looked normal. A nurse banged on the door from the hallway. "Sir, are you okay?" "Been gone for almost 2 hours." Jordan opened the door, pale and shaking. He looked around. The hospital was full again. Patients, doctors, lights, voices. He was back, but something inside him said he wasn't free. That night they moved him to a private room, thinking he had a breakdown. The nurse brought him food. "You'll feel better after some sleep," she said kindly. He nodded, trying to smile. But as soon as the lights went off, he heard it again. The whisper from the mirror. He looked. This time, the black-eyed woman didn't just appear. She stepped. Through the glass, Jordan couldn't move. The black-eyed woman had stepped out of the mirror like it was made of water. Her pale feet didn't touch the ground. She floated just above it. Her face was emotionless, but her eyes, deep black and endless, stared directly into his soul. Behind her, the cracked mirror rippled. More faces began to appear in the glass. Dozens. Of them, then hundreds. Men, women, children, each one with hollow black eyes and pale skin, each trapped inside the mirror. Some looked like people from his past, his old teacher, a gas station worker, even a childhood friend who vanished one summer. They hadn't disappeared. They had been taken, and now Jordan realized with terror they were trying to pull him in. Too, he stumbled back from the woman, tripping over the hospital bed. The nurse call button dangled uselessly from the wall. He pressed it. Again and again. No one came. The room lights flickered, then turned red and off. Jordan heard the soft whispering again, but now it filled the entire room, like voices coming from inside the walls. He turned back toward the mirror. The woman was gone, but in her place the mirror showed himself. What looked like him, except the reflection, had black eyes. It smiled. Jordan didn't single quotes. The reflection raised one hand. Jordan's hand stayed down. It wasn't a mirror, then the glass cracked in a perfect circle. Pieces fell to the floor as if something had punched through from the other side. The hand that came out wasn't Jordan's. It was his reflection's. Black veins, cold skin, fingernails long and sharp like claws. Jordan ran to the door, but it was sealed shut. No handle, no exit. The lights in the hallway had vanished. Darkness surrounded the room like thick smoke. He backed into a corner, grabbing a metal IV pole like a weapon. He was breathing fast. Too fast, his reflection stepped out completely. Now a full copy of him only. Wrong, the eyes were too dark. The smile too wide. The way it moved was off, like a puppet pretending to be human. You wanted answers, the double said. Now you're part of the truth. Jordan screamed and swung the IV pole, but the double didn't flinch. The pole passed through it like mist, then it grabbed him by the throat, and everything went black. He woke up lying in the woods, not just any woods, the woods behind the cabin, but this time there was no moon, no stars. The sky was just nothing. He stood slowly. His body ached. His clothes were torn. The trees were taller than before, almost too tall, stretching up into darkness. Then he saw it. A cabin. His cabin only. It was wrong. The windows were shattered. The door hung open. The inside glowed red like fire, but there was no smoke. No heat. He walked closer. Inside, there were mirrors. On every wall, on the floor, the ceiling, and in every one, he saw a different version of himself. One was screaming silently. One was crying. One stood still, eyes black. Smiling, he turned to run. But the forest had disappeared. Now, there was only the cabin and the mirrors. He heard a voice behind him. Pick one. He turned. It was the black-eyed woman again. She stood in the doorway, arms folded, her face emotionless. What do you mean? Jordan asked, voice shaking. Pick one to become. You can't go back. You left the door open too long. I didn't open it on purpose, he said. You dreamed of the darkness, she replied. And the darkness dreams back. Jordan looked around at all the mirrors, all the versions of himself. I want to go home, he whispered. There is no more home, she said softly. Only the mirror that reflects who you really are. He backed away. But his feet touched glass. He looked down. There was a mirror. Under him, his reflection was the one with black eyes, and it was grinning. The glass shattered. He fell. He woke up again. This time, the hospital bed. The lights were normal. Machines beeped softly. A doctor stood nearby. You had a seizure, she said. We thought we lost you for a moment. Jordan blinked. Was it a dream? Was any of it real? Can I go home? He asked, voice dry. The doctor smiled. Me, just check a few things. She handed him a small mirror to hold. Your pupils. Look into this. He took it, stared into the mirror, and froze. His eyes were black. The doctor smiled wider. Her eyes turned black, too. You picked, she whispered. The lights went out. Some say Jordan still lives, but not here. Not anymore, they say. He exists in the mirrors now, just like the others, sometimes late at night. People see a strange face in their bathroom mirror, not theirs. Someone watching, someone smiling. If that ever happens to you, don't blink, don't speak, and above all, don't turn. You're back.